Did you? Okay. I call to order the August 13, 2018 regular business meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Education. We welcome everyone and request everyone in the audience to please silence your cell phones and electronic devices. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oops, I lost my necklace. Thank you. Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Present.
Ms. Bolton?
Present.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby? Mr. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Messer?
Present.
Mr. Morosky?
Present.
President Jones?
Here. I need a motion to revise the agenda. We want to add subject matter under board matters called fire and safety discussion. I need a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting August 8, 2018, and the regular business meeting August 8, 2018.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Ms. Bolton, would you please present the August 7, 2018 first Strategic Engagement and Planning Committee meeting report?
Yes, gladly. It was a long time coming, I think, over a number of years and months, and we convened the committee plenary group of more than 20 people to begin to lead us through strategic initiatives effort, whether it's a plan or a directive or whatever it might be. We do not know the length of that plan. We also have not made all the other kind of determinations, and that will come as a result of dialogue with our plenary group and the community, and this board being kept apprised and participating. We did elect co-chairs at the suggestion of Member Messer, pleased to serve as co-chair with Member Copeland-Dansby. And we have the minutes that are published and hope for approval. And we've already had board staff reach out to the members of the committee to find the best dates available, and also to, as per Member Messer's suggestion, conduct a SWOT analysis electronically, and then we'll be able to compile that at our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay. Does anyone have any kudos? Mr. Morosky.
Well, there's very obvious kudos, I think, to our superintendent for the address that she delivered last Friday. While I couldn't be there, I saw it, and it was certainly all over the news. And working at Children's Hospital, I can't hear enough about Superintendent Mitchell, and I always be sure to pass along that you enjoyed your time with Uma over there, who I still haven't met. I'm kind of scared too. But it was really, really great, and it was a neat event seeing the chamber there, the new CEO of the United Way, and Superintendent Mitchell on the stage together, and I think it really set us off for an awesome year and has a lot of people talking. So kudos to you, Laura.
Mr. Messer.
Yeah, I'm going to give a kudos tonight to the principal, teachers, and an entire team at Saylor Park. I had the chance to go out there with President Jones and board member Bolton. It was my first time, even though I've had relatives go there, first time to see it in its current state, fresh and new, and these classrooms were just so impressive. But I think because it was my first time really to engage in the way, or as a board member, I got a chance to just walk the halls and meet with the vast majority of the teachers, and I was thoroughly impressed with everything I saw and heard and just observed and how they interacted with our parents. And it was just a real good feeling. But then on top of having all of that great success, you know, the hallways were filled with just about every possible community partner that our children and their families could utilize to further enrich the education of our children and their preparation in life. So kudos to that entire team for a wonderful back-to-school kickoff. I think their numbers in some of their classrooms show that they're on to something good, and not only attracting a lot of students, but keeping them over the long term.
Thank you. Ms. Bolton?
Yes, ditto for Sailor Park. I'd also like to send kudos to the principal and staff at Winton Hills Academy. They had a wonderful kickoff to their Vision 2020. They actually had worked out an organizational effort where they had passports to various stages along the way as to things that needed to get done and people to meet, and then also certainly not just the food, but also the availability of the kinds of things besides even book bags that the kids in Winton Hills Academy would need. And I was very pleased particularly to meet briefly with the first grade team, and I was very impressed, and I love to watch the kids go and hug the teachers that they had last year and say, oh, we're going, and then the teachers would take them to the new teachers that they have this year. And it was very warming. It was very, very great turnout and a great time. And sorry, I'm sure we all probably had to miss the Covedale one today, in part because of the timing, but this is a very exciting kickoff.
Thank you. Any other kudos? Ms. Bates?
Yes, I'd like to give kudos to the organizers of Pedal Fest. Our good friend Brewster Rhodes headed that up. And he and his group raised over $100,000 for the Outdoor Adventure Clubs. And that club serves primarily our students in Cincinnati Public Schools. And I volunteered, I didn't paddle. And there were some of our children out there in some of the boats having a good time.
Thank you. Ms. Copeland Dansby?
Good evening. I'm sorry for my tardiness, trying to do too many things at one time. I also want to give kudos to our superintendent and her staff for the amazing kickoff. I'm sure someone has already said that. The interesting part is I was traveling with my student returning to college, and so I wasn't able to be there, but I watched on live stream while riding, and I just can't say enough about how amazing the presentation was. I've been fortunate to be a part of the kickoff for many years now, and I will say this by far excited me the most. The district has come a very long way, and you guys did an amazing job articulating that to the public as well as what's to come. Our president also did an amazing job welcoming folks in that, so kudos.
Thank you. Any other kudos? Lots of those tonight. Okay, Ms. Bates, please present the retirements.
Oh, yes, I have them here. Yes, we have several retirements among our civil service personnel: Margaret Frederick, Dennis R. McGrath, and Rosemary Noppert. We congratulate them on their retirement and thank them for their service to our children over the years and wish them well.
Thank you, Ms. Bates. We are now at the item on our agenda for hearing the public. Each speaker has 3 minutes to speak, and Mrs. Wagner will be our timekeeper. When the buzzer goes off, your 3 minutes are up. Please refrain from discussing any personnel items. When your name is called, please come to the podium to speak. And it looks like we have 5, so I'm going to call 2 and then the next 3. Marlena Brookfield, Lisa French.
Good evening again, board members,
Good evening.
Superintendent Mitchell, Treasurer Wagner. Tonight, because this week starts the new school year, I just want to talk a little bit about our fine arts curriculum, and in particular, because it's my daughter, our marching band program, the Western Hills Campus Band. When I was at West High, we had a pretty good marching band, and after I graduated, it lapsed. And we had a few years where I don't think we even had one. But since she's been at Dater, it's just had a renaissance. And we have teachers that I had that are coming to football games and they're saying, oh, we come to see the marching band. And that makes me feel so good. You're here to watch my marching band babies. So this just really speaks to the strength of the arts in our schools. I see how well she's done learning an instrument starting in 7th grade, having no prior experience, to now she's in the marching band. And just the camaraderie that I see with the students, it's incredible. Students of all shapes, sizes, colors, they're family. And I can't praise it enough. So on that note, I just want to let you know, West High's first home game is August 31st against Roger Bacon. If you're not doing anything, come check out our team, but also the campus marching band. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. French.
Yes, good evening, board members and
Good evening.
superintendent and members of the administration. I am here because in April, I requested some very basic, very simple information regarding the preschool promise program. To date, I have not gotten the information that I requested, answers to all the questions that I requested. I am a taxpayer. My taxes did go up, and I think I am owed the respect of at least giving me the answers that I'm asking for, not referring me to a policy that does not obviously contain the information that I'm asking for. So I am asking accountability from you, from the administration, to please give me the information that I'm asking for. You're collecting it, you have it. It's not anything that you have to do special to get it. So can I count on you to help give me the information that I'm asking for?
Okay. Thank you. We're going to ask Superintendent Mitchell to make sure that someone gets her contact information and gets with her.
Your attorneys have it. Your legal department has it. And I've been in contact with one of the attorneys. So I'm just asking, accountability, can you all make sure that
We will
taxpayers get it?
make sure that we get in contact with you and do our best to answer your questions.
Okay, thank
We
you.
want to do that. Thank you. Okay, the next three, Perry Brenner, Stefan Pryor, and Julie Sellers.
Hello, and good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for allowing me time to speak. My name is Perry Brenner, and I'm a 6th grade student at Sans Montessori. I have come to tell you about a problem in my community, low teacher salaries. Teachers are the basis of our society. They teach doctors, lawyers, you, me, and everyone else. Teachers don't just teach, they are our mentors. They give attendance, they give discipline, take attendance, answer questions, and support you. Teachers go out of their way to make sure their students know what they need to know, and more importantly, how to think. I think the school board should try and pay teachers a little bit more because teachers do a lot of work and don't get paid much. Teachers are not paid enough for what they do in our society. From my own experience, I know that many teachers work 2 jobs to pay living expenses. I asked a teacher from Woodlawn Elementary, and she said they pay for class supply, out of their pockets. The New York Times states that the teachers most of the time stay behind when they are supposed to be off. Teachers don't get paid for the hours that they stay after school and for extra class supplies. You have probably had a teacher who led you to where you are today. It's time to thank them and pay them a little more. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Brenner. Mr. Pryor.
Y'all doing?
Good.
All right, okay, all right. I'm here today to talk about this school year. I ain't bashing y'all. All right, I'm gonna give y'all grades. Y'all get an A. But they said this school year, I consider all these students need to learn survivor skills. They don't got that in schools. Prepare them for a real world. CPS. We need to bring back the old home economic classes. Y'all need to bring that back to the schools. Some of these young folks don't know how to cook. Right, they don't. Y'all need to bring that back. Instead of saying it's home economics, call it the skills for life. Y'all should make this a mandatory, that they had this in high schools because it's important. Don't know how to cook, don't know how to sew. That's the problem. You go to the corner store, right? You go inside the store, all you see is diabetes. You got juices, cookies, candy, but no learning education part of what to eat or how to eat in school. They eat the Flaming Hots and noodles from stores. That's not healthy. And inside the Flaming Hots, you got Red 40. What is Red 40? It's a dye that's messing their system up. No wonder they get sick. I think that y'all should bring that back. It'll help the students out. I heard the 3 E's on the radio: enlist, enroll, and educate, if I said it right, but y'all need to bring this back. Let's prepare the students when they leave high school, what to do and how to do it. We losing it. I see it in the streets every day. Guys on the street, they go in the store, make a break. What is a break? When you're in prison, they put all that junk together and eat it. But if we hit it in the schools, we can teach the students already, so when they do get older, they won't live homeless. Because you be homeless in Cincinnati, you getting kicked out your own city. It's up to y'all too, y'all. Y'all see what we dealing with, 3CDC? Come on, y'all. They arguing with y'all over parking spaces, teaching the kids. Over a parking space for the teachers? We need to start educating these teachers, not the teachers, the students, y'all. They don't know nothing. They lost, real talk. It started at home and in school. And it started with y'all too to make the right decision too, y'all. I know I am here to, not to bash y'all, I'm here to, to motivate y'all. Do something different. Y'all gotta pass that power on to the next generation. Knowledge is power. Y'all gotta pass it on by doing something productive too. Not worried about getting paid. I ain't gonna talk about FC either. But this would be a great idea to bring home economics back to school. I learned how to cook. I know how to cook good. That's 3 minutes. I time myself too.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. Ms. Sellers.
Good evening, everyone. I would first like to say, I let everyone here on the board know that Laura Mitchell also came last week to our annual building rep workshop where we had 150 teachers. And Ralph Jackson, who I think has known Laura since before she became a teacher, he even bragged and said, "That's the most calm and relaxed I've ever seen Laura in her whole life." And it was on our evaluations, there were lots of great comments made, and people felt really hopeful for this year and moving forward as teachers within the district of enhancing employee experiences. And so we had a great question and answer period, and she's going to come quarterly to our membership meetings. so that she can hear also from the teachers in an environment where they feel safe to talk about some issues. And secondly, I would like to say, I hope that you're very close to getting the 200 parking spaces from 3CDC. That was in the agreement because teachers are still panicked about where they're going to park, and school starts the day after tomorrow. And it's not just a convenience thing, but if anyone has ever stood outside of a school, you know how much stuff a teacher carries into their building every single day. They carry their work home, they carry their work back. They bring in things for their lessons because there's not a lot of storage in the schools, so teachers store stuff in their homes and then bring it. And to not have parking, I think, is just so disrespectful of 3CDC to be thinking that that's where they can make their cuts to increase their profits. But the real reason I am here is this year every year we do a book study, and this year the book study that we are doing is 21st Century Jim Crow Schools. And it is a book that is written based on research, especially in large cities where they've had great takeovers of public schools by charters. And it is the impact of charters on public education. And we have already planned for this book to be our what we're going to have this year for our book read. But as we have been preparing for this, I've heard that there's a charter school that is going to be opening in Cincinnati. So charter schools were once promised as a pathway towards educational equity, but these market-driven educational reforms have reestablished a tiered public school system that segregates students by race and class. Charters are usually set in poor Black and brown communities, and these schools position themselves as public schools to secure tax dollars, but exploit their private status to hide data about enrollment and salaries and how successful those students are. They don't have the same accountability, and they use misleading information to promote false narratives of student success. Not just charters are a failed experiment, but a report just released by Notre Dame and the University of Kentucky today said that low-income Indiana students who use a voucher to transfer to private schools using public dollars has also failed. Indiana is one of the worst when it comes to charters and vouchers in the country, and I hope that that movement is not going to try to move here to Cincinnati. The research from the University of Notre Dame and the University of Kentucky shows that students' math scores dropped dramatically, and those scores were never made up. 3 and 4 years later, the scores were never made up. But you may wonder why I'm bringing this up. Now, I've heard about a new charter school that is opening at a local YMCA, and they're going to be in partnership with Xavier University, and I'm a Xavier alumni, so I love Xavier, but I think that's wrong, and I believe that both of these organizations have had such strong working partnerships with us in CPS and with the people in Cincinnati that I am really shocked that those two organizations would consider working with Fordham Foundation to open a charter, and that you, as a board, should reconsider having any future contracts with these organizations that are working to undermine the education for children in our city and to drain the CPS budget of the dollars that we have limited coming from the states. These groups of people have not, we will then have to make up the loss of what those schools have done. How many charter school children do we get back, and immediately the first thing the teacher says is, oh my God, they're coming from a charter school, they're going to be so far behind. How am I going to be able to catch them up on our test scores? When children start in CPS, And by third grade, they stay in CPS, they are reading. It's the kids, and the Fordham Foundation research showed that. It's the kids who are in and out of different schools and in and out of the charters, and all of that churn of enrollment is what is hurting our children. And so I hope that you are not going to continue future contracts with any organizations that are undermining CPS for any future contracts. So thank you. And I hope that you all get this book and read it. It's going to be a great book, but it's really very informative. I did post the article about Indiana's vouchers so that you can read the research yourself and see this is not just something I'm making up. It is research-based, and they are failed experiments. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sellers. Okay, Superintendent Mitchell, would you please present the two presentations for this evening?
Gladly. So our first presentation is for an alcohol waiver at SCPA, and so I'd like to introduce Marvin Hawkins and also Jack Geiger.
Good evening, Superintendent, as well as board members. I wanted to introduce who I have with me is Annette Tarver, who is one of our project managers on the team, Marvin Hawkins, who's in charge of our strategic alliances. And so what we thought we would do was take this opportunity to provide a little bit of background about the film festival and answer your questions at the end based on what our ask is. But if we could just start off with this video, which is a vision piece that we have, which talks about the last 6 years of our film festival and how we're changing it going forward.
1990, Congress passed the historic Americans with Disabilities Act, making it illegal for the first time to discriminate against people with disabilities in employment, public services, and telecommunications. But the hard truth is, accessibility is not inclusion.
You cannot remove me for having a service dog.
True inclusion means an open door in all settings and reciprocal relationships where each is known and valued for who they are. At LAD, we believe that every person has ability and value. We empower adults with developmental disabilities to live their best lives. Look around you. Disability is found in every facet of our population, and it has the unique power to link us all together despite our differences. At LAD, we believe change happens with understanding, and film has a pivotal role to play in understanding each other, challenging our stereotypes, and changing our culture. In 2018, LAD will expand its already successful Real Abilities Film Festival to include films that explore diversity, difference, and disability.
What's coming next will help us tell our story.
Our story.
Our story.
Our story.
My story. And what's coming next will help me tell my story.
Join us in Over the Rhine to explore our differences and celebrate our shared humanity. You'll meet new friends who are not like you in some ways and like you in so many others. You'll explore and celebrate what a world of authentic inclusion beyond the ADA can look and feel like. Prepare to be welcomed like you have never been welcomed before. See breathtaking new films from around the world created by up-and-coming filmmakers. An annual 4-day festival of untold stories, unsurpassed beauty. Cinema for all. Over the Rhine International Film Festival. Presenting stories that celebrate the human spirit.
Okay, thank you. So, and in front of you is a packet of information that we have, and this is called our lookbook. So, I'm just going to take a quick minute and just step through this, just a couple pages. I know we only have 10 minutes, so we'll do this very, very quickly. What was stated was that The Real Abilities Film Festival was started in 2011. It was an every other year program. It grew larger every year. Its through line is based upon disabilities. And so it's understanding inclusive of individuals with disabilities. And we all have disabilities or we're temporarily able. It's one of those things where this whole area is growing so rapidly, and we wanted to be able to explain it, use it as a base that we could also address other topics. So disability as our basis remains the basis going forward, whether it's physical disabilities or mental disabilities. So when we started this process, it was one important thing that we wanted to see a world where culture accurately reflected the value of everybody. And on the left is the size of the population, and also the size of the individual representation on screen. Because every large film festival is place-based, we chose Over the Rhine as the place for our film festival. Now realize that we're placing this film festival in the city as a $750,000 investment. It's a 5-year program. It's going to be annual, and the idea is to make Cincinnati a destination film festival. This is going to be an extremely large piece of the crown of Cincinnati in our effort to make Cincinnati more welcoming and more inclusive. So that's really the basis of it. And Over the Rhine film, and Over the Rhine, we had 11 of us that went around to every building, 2 of whom used wheelchairs, and we looked at every aspect of it. And this is important because it's an important place for us with Washington Park. It's also an important place for us with SCPA, and it's also an important place because it's very old buildings and they're not real accessible. So, there's some aspects here, and we hope that we can use, this film festival to help others to try to get their buildings up to speed and more accessible. So that's important, and we'll get to that in a minute when Marvin talks more about, what we're asking as far as the film festival, as far as you guys to make a decision on. We expanded from the disability base to also include diversity, freedom, identity, and faith, and those are the 5 major tracks. We're not calling it that. We're calling it, these are stories about the human spirit, about shared humanity. And that's really the reason that these 5 tracks are here, is so that we can measure our films, make sure that we're in the right proportion. And we're also addressing, what our charter is as far as talk about inclusion in all its forms. More than 65 films. We attracted 150 films online. We also sent curators out to Toronto, to Tribeca, to Sundance, to Sundance North, to Nantucket, and we brought back the best of the films, new films that are being shown at those film festivals as well. This shows our growth from 2013 to 2018, and again, where it was every other year, that's going to be every year going forward. We hope to be in conjunction with Blink and Photo Focus on an annual basis, so that we'll become a lens-based art component for the city. So we're talking about how we can be a convener of the film assets, how we can pull everybody together, how everybody in film understands what each other can do, and we understand what lanes we should be playing in. The other thing I'll share with you, and I think it's important, is our team. I'm just proud to be able to be a part of this team. It's an extremely diverse team, and it's been extremely enlightening for me. We have 3 SCPA grads up there, and the professionalism of this group is incredible. And we're positioning this film festival to be something that is sustainable, that happens every year, and is something that we can really use to cauterize the city. So I want to turn it over to Marvin Hawkins, who's going to talk a little bit more about the application we have here and answer any questions you may have. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for having us today. Really excited to be in front of you, this group. Do I need the mic? I don't know if I need. I'm pretty good at projecting from performing arts theater, but yes. So we are 5 days in Over the Rhine. Very exciting time. As Jack mentioned, we have films from all over the world, tons of celebrity talent, great events that will be associated with the film festival. We have an education component that we're doing with 600 kids from underserved populations from CPS. That's happening Friday at the Freedom Center. That will be the 28th. We're opening with the community movie in Washington Park for everyone to come down. Instead of a swanky red carpet, we wanted to make sure this is a people's festival. So we wanted to invite everyone to have a seat at the table. Everything from veterans events to interfaith. Saturday night, I think I'm the most excited because we're doing we're showing a documentary on Sammy Davis Jr. and really showing the intersectionality of his life and his legacy. So we're going to be at Music Hall that night, and after we see the film at SCPA, moving over to Music Hall for a Rat Pack themed bash. So we're very excited. Lots of films. You can go to otrfilmfest.org and check it out. We are here today to actually talk to you about ground zero for us, which is the SCPA building. I'm one of those SCPA alumni that Jack mentioned, and we have gone into partnership with the folks at SCPA to put on the festival using their 2 main theaters as our main hub. Part of that is to be able to execute our festival within the building and on premises for those 5 days. So that will be September 26th to the 30th. As part of this, and LAD being a nonprofit for raising funds, we want to be able to offer beverage service at the school, which we've gotten clearance from the staff and folks there. As part of that, we are applying for a liquor waiver. We have partnered with the Cincinnati USA Music Heritage Foundation. You may know them most notably for the work they've done around King Records and saving the building most recently here in Evanston. They are our partner for the festival, and we actually be holding and executing the license in SCPA. We've gone into agreement with them. We've gone through all the necessary steps with the liquor application, working with CPD Special Events and the school, and we are here before you today to actually present that. And in your packet, you will find the paperwork on the left-hand side. It has all of the information you will need. It has our application that we have submitted for the use of the building, which has been granted to us from the staff there. It also has our insurance policies and the actual liquor application. We will be operating there during the week after 5 p.m. So the plan is to clear the school of any students that are present. We're hiring extra security, and then we will be executing the festival from 5 p.m. until around 10 or 11, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Saturday, we'll be there all day. Sunday, we'll be there until 6, 7 p.m. Very excited about it. We also have a venue on site that we're really excited about debuting. It's called Le Cube, and it's an inflatable venue where we will hold special receptions and special events there. And as part of the liquor permit and the actual footprint, we will want to look at the entire block as under this permit so that we can have the ability to both serve beverages, adult beverages during our special events, but also offer a point of sale for extra revenue to come into the festival. Because as Jack said, it is a pretty hefty ticket. We come here before you today to get permission and answer any questions you may have. So we're hoping that you will consider our application, and any questions you may have, we're going to open the floor for us and let us know if you have any inquiries.
Okay. Are you, we will have an opportunity to make comments or ask questions when your presentation is concluded, and so you let us know.
Okay.
Are you, if you're concluded? And
yeah, I think that we are concluded. As I said, otrfilmfest.org is the website. I'm very excited about 5 days in Over the Rhine. I'm using SCPA as ground zero, also a partnership with Washington Park and 3CDC, a street fair on 12th Street. We will be closing down that portion from Elm Street down to the Parkway. Also in surrounding venues, as you saw, as the Woodward Theater, Revel, the Freedom Center, and Micro Cinema. Centos will be having our music hall. So several venues in and around OTR, as well as in other parts of the city. But we are really, really, really happy that this is taking shape, and really love the partnership between CPS and all the energy and love we're getting for the community. So that will conclude my presentation.
Thank you. Do board members have questions or comments? I'm assuming that this is a ticket to get in?
It's a placeholder.
It's a save the date.
It's a save the date. We
Save
want
the
the
date,
creative,
okay.
But
yeah.
the candy is real. You
The candy is real.
And I got the best candy,
Yes.
Junior Mints, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So my question is just regarding, so on the website, we will be able to see what's activity is happening at the different venues on what date?
Yes.
Okay.
There'll be a full schedule published on the website, as well as it'll be offered in City Beat newspaper here locally, and you'll be able to get that. You know, if you like us to mail you a copy, we can also do that. But we'll be providing information to you because CPS is actually a big partner for our educational programming.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Messer.
Full disclosure, as one of the chairs of the Saturday night event, please come to the tribute to Sammy Davis Jr., and I will try to dance as well as my son, if you've seen that video. But I think my question is, just knowing a little bit of some of the videos or the movies that are going to be shown, some of them are very powerful and frankly very appropriate for school-age children. And my question is whether any of those might be able to be exposed to some of our children who may not be able to get to Over the Rhine during the festival, if there's a way that we could work maybe the sharing of some of these powerful messages with our students.
Great question.
Yes.
What we're talking about is creating a YouTube channel with all of the inventory that we have. So the idea is, this isn't a 5-day program, it's a 12-month program. And so when we're in the schools, we'll be teaching critical thinking and writing skills, and we'll be circulating those films around there as well, and we'll also have them available on our site. So if there's one in particular that you'd like to have to use internally or something like that, we can certainly work out the fees for that.
Yes. And we have programming within the festival as well. There's some movies like Queen of Kotway on behalf of Disney. They're giving us that film, and some other ones that are definitely family friendly. And we're circling the wagons now with different organizations. We'll be offering ticket packages, prizes. We'll be pro bono. Some of the tickets for families that may not have an opportunity or who never would actually have the money to go to a movie on a Friday night. So we're considering all of those different aspects and wanting to provide that for the community.
Yeah, and one other thing is that there's so much here that we don't want to overload, but we are having the opera come in and do something with the Ohio Innocence Project, and we're having Clarence Elkins here, who's an incredible individual. We're also involved with some incredible speakers, such as Justice Bernstein, who spoke to the superintendent's lunch and learn, and the opportunities for us to do things that are truly unique is terrific, but it's only if SCPA is available to us, because the real estate there and the partnership with CPS is so critical for us that we're asking.
Thank you. Ms. Bolton.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, and I'm glad we're going to be partnering as well. I just have a housekeeping question regarding the sale of liquor. Is it liquor, or are we also are we talking beer and wine? Because that is part of one of the things we've always considered. So I just need to get that clear from them.
Yeah, our permit is a F2 permit, which is beer, wine, and spirits. So it's all three. Primarily because we will have events in our cube, our private room, for special events, and then also beer and wine will be offered on site as well. So it's an F2 permit application that we are applying for through the state.
Which would then include the liquor piece as well as beer and wine. And I think that is at least to my recollection, that's a departure from practice. I mean, I'm not opposed to it necessarily, but I think it does represent a departure from the standpoint of it's traditionally been beer and wine.
Okay. Well, and I don't know who can address this, it says alcohol in the resolution, so I'm thinking that that's all inclusive. So you're saying that even is a departure from what we've done. Mr. Messer.
I think the only question I have is that, we have had a history of very successful partnership with the opera that's done their summer festival, at least one of the productions at SCPA, and I'm pretty sure that included Cash Bar. As all the opera events had. I didn't partake, but I think I assumed, that it was alcohol.
Okay, Ms. Bates.
And my recollection is the same. This would be the first time we would be issuing our approval for spirits. We've always done beer and wine. So we are setting a precedent.
Okay, Mr. Davis and then Ms. Copeland Dansby. Ms. Copeland Dansby.
Oh, sure, thank you. I guess for me, I might recall Walnut Hills High School events that might have had liquor. No, it's always been beer and wine. So when we write these resolutions, it specifically says alcohol. I think where we get into the detail is in the literal application, and I did notice the same as I went through it. So I'll try to help out a little bit. Talk to us about the separation of young people from the liquor and the beer and wine during the events. And to include security.
Yeah. So as part of our agreement with Performing Arts and the staff there is that we will not operate during school hours, and there is a grace period after the end of the school day, which I believe is 3:45, where they're allowing the kids to get out of the building. We will actually take control of the school per our rental application at 5 p.m. All of the kids will be out of the building. They are not allowed to even be in the building. I even went so far as to address the idea of, so what if a kid left and came back with their parents to see a show? And I guess under the law, that is not illegal. But we are adhering to strict standards as far as IDing, as far as wristbanding. As a matter of fact, in our conversation the other day, we said that people are going to be ID'd and wristband coming in, but also once you go to the bar, you will probably be ID'd again because we want to make sure there is no lapse and coverage there. And also making sure that kids, for instance, if there are any kids who are on premises as part of SCPA, I know that we're looking at potentially a show Friday night, which will be done by SCPA students, but they will be only confined to the back of house, which will not be the area where we will be serving liquor, and they will be not allowed to travel. They will have to come in through a separate entrance, be in a dressing room, perform, and then leave the premises. So we've thought through every aspect of how we would execute, because for us, the liability is very important. We do not want to see children be put in a situation where they are at danger, at risk of consuming. So we're taking every necessary precaution to limit that.
So do young people attend any of the film viewings, or folks under 21? Is there any opportunity that they attend any of the viewings or participating?
Yes,
not in the cube, of course, but.
Yeah, they are. We have several movies, or a few movies that are family friendly. Like Sunday, one of our selections is The Queen of Cotway, and that will be playing at the SCPA Corbett Theater. So yeah, there is an opportunity for families to be there at certain times, but the majority of our movies, the content and things are really for adults who, but not to say that there doesn't have a family-friendly component. Now, to actually combat that is one of the reasons why we actually partnered with 3CDC, because we will be offering family programming in the park, in the playground, complimentary things there, Friday through Sunday, as well as our 12th Street footprint, which is our street fair, which will also be heavily policed and then also controlled.
But there's no drinking in the theater,
But
right?
no drinking in the theaters.
No drinking in the theater.
Yeah.
And most of the spirits will be in the VIP tent. They will not be in the building.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we're just trying to understand the proximity of the spirits to where there could potentially be young people and the concentration of security and how that interacts with one another.
Yeah. You wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the events are all ticketed, and so whoever comes will be, I'm just going to give you some logistics. They'll be presenting their ticket, they will be carded at that time. If they are over 21, they'll be wristband, so that they would be the only ones who would be eligible to purchase alcohol of any sort.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we will also have security on site monitoring that activity within the SCPA lobby and theaters. And as Jack said, we're limited to no alcoholic beverages inside the theaters themselves. The majority of the time where you will see most of the alcohol consumption will be for special receptions, like we're doing a partnership with Fifth Third on Saturday, where they're actually we're shutting down the lobby, and it's an actual special event. There will be no children there because it's all VIPs from Fifth Third and some of their affiliates. The rest of most of the alcohol consumption will be in the Cube, which is an actual separate venue from the school. It will actually sit on the playground. So you will have to go through an entranceway where you have to be carded or wristband. No children will be allowed in the Le Cube area.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes, thank you. I'm interested in knowing that the spirits, the liquor would be in a VIP tent, but outside the building, but still on our grounds is what I'm assuming, the parking lot.
That's correct. Yeah.
It's hard for me to believe that the SCPA has a school day. As far as I know about school days at SCPA, they don't necessarily end at 3 or whatever, but I appreciate the diligence that you've gone through. I don't know how if we do this, the next time the opera folks come or the next time there's an SCPA fundraiser, if we say yes to you regarding liquor, then I don't know how we say no to anybody else. That's part of the problem I'm having. Now, if we're ready to cross that Rubicon or whatever, then we are. But we've held firm on these exceptions as being beer and wine only. So I have some reservations that way, as much as I want to support it. And I'm not that, I believe I think too, the district administration needs to get a hold of, maybe you already are, of all the arrangements that seem to have been made at the school site and who's actually helping do that. So I think we could facilitate that a bit at the district level. But I'm still very concerned about, once we do this, it is a precedent, and we are crossing that line.
And if I might offer, since the resolution is on the agenda for consideration, we really do need, I think we share some of your concerns about the precedent. So we probably need to have some discussion and think through, and I don't know how people want to vote now, but when it comes up in our discussion, to note these things before we vote, as a part of our thinking with that.
May I add, is there a way, and I just want to throw this out there, is there a way to maybe put restrictions on the consumption of actual liquor inside the building? Therefore, because we actually have this separate venue that will be a private VIP venue where there will be no children allowed in this venue. It's actually separate and detached from the school, but it will sit on the playground. So if we were to look at having the permission to execute the F2 with the stipulation that no actual spirits, so vodka, anything like that, would be allowed to be served inside the building, would that be an angle to consider?
So it'd be beer and wine only inside?
Inside the building itself.
Ms. Bates?
I think this is more of a board discussion.
Yeah.
We decided that we would not have a hard and fast policy about the use of alcohol in our buildings for special occasions. So that's what we've done. And in the past, this board, the board makeup has changed, so board opinions could change. But it's not so much what you're doing, it's the precedent that we're setting is what's under discussion. So I agree with Ms. Jones. We do need to discuss this further. We are considering this on a case-by-case basis, which is what we've always done.
Yep.
But this is the first time that we've been presented with an approval for spirits.
Yeah, and so as part of that discussion, and then we probably should move on to that, we'll present the resolution and have discussion as part of that for our consideration. That way it gets on record what the specific concerns are. Then, if it passes, then you get to do what you're asking. If it doesn't pass, then there may be opportunity for you to kind of work through some of those scenarios that you're talking with us and maybe come back if it doesn't. Okay. So if that's okay, we'll just move forward. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yes, Mr. Davis.
Since you skipped me
yes.
3 times.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, my bad.
But I love these two, so
okay.
I'll take my skipping. I'm confused with what you're suggesting. You're suggesting that we wait until after we discuss the resolution to decide on whether or not we would agree to this waiver?
As it is written, that's what the discussion would be, expressing our concerns or making comments.
But currently,
When
the
we
waiver,
come-
but currently, the resolution would permit what the waiver is asking for?
Currently.
Okay, well, I
Yeah.
personally think that's unfair to this group. And I also think that it's prime time for departure from past practices. I'm almost at the point that we should stop using past practices as such a strong, bold statement of how this board should move forward. And
Mr. Davis, can I just stop you for 1 second? Because this is part of the discussion that we need to repeat in the discussion.
Okay,
Can-
I'll
can you
repeat it
move on?
later too.
Okay.
Because I think we're missing a main point here about LAD's purpose. And I don't know about the opera and all the other folk that have come before this board, but I haven't heard anybody talk about how important it is that the work LAD does for folk that have no one else working for them, and folk with disability that deserve this body to support them. And for me, it's a very simple decision in regard to supporting. I applaud your diligence. I've been on the website. So I've heard the commercials. I don't know if they're playing mostly on black radio, which I listen to, but I've heard, well, I'm sorry, because I listen to 700 too, and I've heard the commercials on both stations. And it's a huge, huge opportunity for our city to have this type of international film festival. And here we are challenging the only thing I checked in the application was that insurance liability limit. And they've got the insurance, and I'm not certain for this group. And I understand the resolution will be a different conversation for me, but for this group, I think we should support their request before discussing the waiver, because, I mean, the liability of, the resolution, because it's two different issues.
No, it's not. It's the same issue. I don't think anybody is saying they don't support.
This is my concern, because if you change the language in the resolution, then they're gonna have to come back. Because the discussion in the resolution is gonna be about the term alcohol. Today, right now, alcohol would be, the spirits would be considered under alcohol in the resolution.
And that's the reason why we vote on it. Because if there are members on the board who choose to vote against it, which is what we're about, then we can, and if it so happens that it fails, then they do have an opportunity to come back to us with some ideas, recommendations for how they might do things differently. I don't think the intent is to not support the event. The intent is, I think what I'm hearing people say is that there is concern about the precedent it would set. And I think Ms. Bolton spoke to the issue of we have to look at each situation individually. That works both ways, whether you support the resolution or not. We still are gonna be faced with other situations where we have to look at it. So it's the whole issue about whether or not it's a precedent. I hear your point is well taken, but I think we should move to, when we present the resolution, act on it, and then whatever happens, we might have some suggestions for how they might come back, if that happens.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Superintendent Mitchell.
So this evening, I would like to present Brittany Cousins, who is our career-based and employment manager, along with Doug Adams. You'll probably remember Doug Adams and Jane Keller, who came to work with us 4 or 5 years ago with My Tomorrow and creating a network. So we're very excited about that and privileged to have them with us tonight, along with Pat Zerby, who has been a longtime GE supporter of Cincinnati Public Schools. And so at this time, I'll turn it over to Brittany and Doug.
All right. Good evening, everyone. How are you? So I am here to give an update on the Business Advisory Council. When we came to you back in July, we talked about career-based learning and our experiences. So today, we're particularly going to focus in on the readiness side and our career and workforce readiness programming that we have at our district, and the fact that the Business Advisory Council, or the BECC, is a group of individuals who help us bring these experiences to life. So they basically the committee consists of a network of employers that are on board to help us specifically meet the needs of our students. They come from a variety of sectors, all representing the 16 nationally recognized career clusters, and their sole purpose is to help us bring those experiences to our students. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Doug Adams, who is one of the founding members of the BECC, to kind of give you a background of the committee.
Good evening. Good evening. Unfortunately, I didn't bring candy, otherwise I would have probably bought Sour Patch Kids. But, you know, I do bring tidings of good news. So it was about 2 years ago that I came and made a presentation of our first year of achievements for the BECC. And for those of you who aren't here, the BECC is an outgrowth of the Leadership Action class, #1 out of Leadership Cincinnati. This was a new program that the Chamber had started, and they'd shifted the projects out of Leadership Cincinnati and into Leadership Action. And they wanted to really focus on something that was an issue within the city of Cincinnati. And at that point in time, they chose workforce development as being the biggest issue that we really needed to address. So as our group of people got together in 2014, we split it into 2 groups, and the group that Jane and I and about 10 other people were on started focusing on businesses and the lack of connectivity to the school system. And the word connectivity is the key word in the whole process, because without business, back in 2014, you heard a lot of the press talking about, you know, businesses don't have kids that are ready when they graduate from high school to go into the business world. Well, if the businesses aren't telling the school systems, here's what we need to see out of the kids, then how are you guys ever going to know? So the idea of creating a business education connectivity council was the whole idea of bringing business and the school system together, specifically to walk side by side, hand in hand. Not to tell the school system how to do it, but to help you with whatever you needed. So in our growth over the years, we started with 3 schools. We started with a board of about 10 people. We had some administrative people. Laura was on there. Dr. Jill Honder was on there. And with that, we started a program with the principals at Aiken, Dater, and Gamble. And our focus was on a 3-pronged approach. We would do a career fair in the fall. We do job shadowing sometime in the spring, and we do mock interviews and interviews of professionals in the late spring. So on those 3 programs, kids would have a full ability to see what's out there for them. Again, it's a career expo, not a job fair, so they got to see the opportunities that they could see. They got to see people like them that could show them what their futures could hold. So our job is to show them those things, that once they graduate, they've got careers that are out there, they've got businesses that are interested in them in Cincinnati, and they could also do secondary education and continue on with their lives. So in our first year, we were very, very productive. We had all the different events. We had 300 kids that showed up at a career expo up at Xavier University. The second year, we expanded both our board and the number of schools we went to. And by the third year, which was this past school year, we had over 1,100 kids show up for the Career Expo with over 50 different companies for an entire day event out at the Sharonville Convention Center. So the students got off their campuses, they got to see real life experiences with real professionals talking about careers that they could do. And if you look around the room and see those kids and how they were engaged with trying to find out what these people could do, it was amazing. And seeing them ask questions saying, gee, I didn't know I could be that. And that's just the great message we have. So what I think is even more telling is the school system got a call from the governor's office of North Carolina. And they sent one of their people up here to talk to us about what we've done. And they said, you guys are doing groundbreaking work. So it's going very, very well. Still me? Nope, you.
Thank you, Doug. So because of that momentum, not only in our region, but on the state level, it is now an Ohio law that all Ohio districts have to have a business advisory council. The good news is, of course, we're ahead of that curve. So the Business Education Connectivity Council will be making a transition to be renamed and repurposed to serve the Business Advisory Council mandate. There's 3 main duties that are outlined, and basically the goal of the council is to keep the district updated in the changes of the economy and the job market, make sure that we're providing experiences to help build employability skills within our students, and then also aid and support future partnerships. The kind of nuts and bolts requirements are that we have to figure out a way to have joint meetings. So after consulting with our legal counsel, we determined that we would recommend that we have a CPS Board of Education Liaison seat. That will be a seat reserved for a board member to come to the Business Advisory Council meetings and report back to the board on a quarterly basis on the activities of the committee, and then make any suggestions for improvement or growth. In addition, our general counsel will provide sunshine law training to our members, and we will work to fulfill the open meetings requirements. And then we will also work to fulfill the plan, which is basically a strategic plan that really focuses in on our work and explain how we're going to make sure that we are serving all of our students and preparing them for the world of work. And then lastly, the joint statement is basically a report out on how well we did on that plan. So the Business Advisory Council membership is displayed here. They represent all of those clusters in industry. The committee works really hard to make sure as someone terms off that we also fill that role with someone who is from that particular career cluster that was exiting. So we wanted to make sure that we're very representative, as well as keep members on the committee that can help us further the work. Going too fast. So looking ahead, we have 4 main focus areas. The first is to make sure that the council structure is strong and that we're onboarding members appropriately so that they can understand the fullness of what the new requirements are, and to make sure that we are putting forth our best effort in keeping quality engagement amongst the committee so that we can keep our impact going. We also are focusing in on that plan. So that plan is actually due to ODE at the end of September. So we will be reviewing it as a committee at our next meeting, and then also working through it with our senior administration so that we can bring it back to you so that you can review it before we send it into ODE. And lastly, we will continue to improve upon our career readiness experiences, expanding to new pathways and partnerships, but also really exploring our programmatic equity. So we only serve 10 of our high schools in the program as of yet. We have added, as you saw, from year to year, but our committee has been elevating the fact that they would like to serve all of our students across our footprint. So we're really looking to see how we need to expand the capacity of our schools, of our current programming, and also of our business community in order to make that happen. And in addition, as we grow the work into the employment space, we're looking to develop a subcommittee to work on our employment pipeline work. Instead of creating a whole nother system, we will create a subcommittee because many of the members who are already represented are contributing to our employment pipeline work as is. So why not create a subcommittee to further the discussion and deepen the impact?
The one other thing I would point out to the committee is you look at how it's grown. We now have 24 of the top companies in Cincinnati represented. Many have been with us from the very start. But when you look at these employers and these lists, these are people who are donating their time, their talents, and their folks to come and spend time with your students. So they've done just a great job. But you look at it, whether it's secondary education folks, whether it's the Metro folks getting the students around, to any of the businesses that are up there. It's a really good group of companies represented by some of the top people in those organizations. Also, we kind of touched on a little bit, these represent the 16 different career clusters that are the recognized career clusters by the school system. So there is at least one company in every single one of those categories. So we've tried to make it a focus on trying to make sure those match what you needed to move your students forward for the future.
And I can't highlight enough the work that Doug Adams and Jane Keller have done from the very beginning. They were pioneers. They had the vision for this for the very beginning. And when you look at the list of people that they've recruited to this, it's just absolutely amazing. I cannot thank the two of them enough for the hard work that you've done. We really, really appreciate and am just blown away by how the program has transitioned over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Do board members have questions or comments? Ms. Bates?
I'm probably going to kind of say the same thing you are, but quite honestly, in our finance committee meeting, Eve and I have been inquiring, and especially Eve, about the way we are complying with the law, and we really didn't get very good answers. So this presentation today is very revealing, because as much as we've been inquiring, we really didn't know that we were even in compliance. And again, I'm not even sure if we are in compliance, and this is something I want legal counsel to look at and check, look at ORC to see if this, because it's required by law, is this to be administration-driven? Is it to be community-driven? Is it to be board-driven? By law, does the board make the appointments? What kind of a committee is this? I think it's great. I mean, we don't have to start from scratch to be in compliance, but I didn't even really know that this organization existed to this extent, and that's something that we've been asking about over the last kind of 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Mrs. Bolton, followed by Mr. Davis.
Yeah, it's outstanding, and I feel reassured that we're in compliance now. And it's interesting that Cincinnati found its own kind of way to do what the state was trying to ask us to do since 1995. And we didn't until the connectivity group came together, and then has to change not how it's been doing, but its mission to a certain extent, and expand it so that it does meet the criteria. So, but again, it's one more example where we were not in compliance for a number of years, and it probably delayed some of the great, wonderful things that you all are doing. And interestingly enough, because of leadership by Jane and by Doug and by our partners long-term, like GE and everybody else, we realized there was a need. But we could have been filling that need earlier, not as well as we're doing now, because I would imagine whatever we've all now come up with to be compliant, as well as all the work you've done previously, I'm sure we're going to be the best at doing this. But it's a lesson to us to sometimes read the Ohio Revised Code and sometimes think that Columbus may have hit on something earlier than we did. But again, it's partly because we had great partnerships. We didn't think we needed it. There were business people telling us sort of things to do or not do. But I think this, it would be good to be reassured by legal counsel that we're totally in compliance. And I think I like the plan that they've outlined, and the membership's outstanding. And I think we'll be among the very best. But it was also the board kept asking about this. So it's the greater communication. We appreciate the superintendent's involvement in making us be in compliance.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Doug, Brittany, Jane, and all, I just wanted to say thank you. And I applaud your efforts, and it's obvious that you guys have been doing great work. A lot of the things that Superintendent Mitchell talked about Friday were connections because of your great work, and it's very much appreciated. And I'm glad that Board Member Bates and Board Member Bolton are ensuring that we do our job and ensuring that this is compliant, and we'll make sure that legal counsel follows up. Have no fear. We really appreciate the work that you're doing. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. Ms. Copeland Dansby.
Thank you very much for your presentation. The work is just outstanding. It speaks for itself. I think this is an example of work that is necessary and has to be done in the community, and our partners are amazing, and our administration does their work. And without our community partners, we cannot have the outcomes that we have. Absolutely. We don't have the ability to do it. So those names there, plus everything that happens in the background, with starting from, I think we talked about starting from 10 members, is that right, to 24 currently? And so I have the distinct pleasure of having a young person that, is in post-secondary education and preparing themselves for the work world. And it is a very serious matter. And so that's our starting point now. And again, backing up to where we talked to the community on Friday, and when we were in our new strategic planning committee earlier in the week, we're starting from where we are here, not from necessarily what happens in the classroom. So thank you. And of course, Jane and Pat, thank you so much. I didn't even see you guys over there. Thank you.
Mr. Messer.
I too want to echo, my day job is in the business world, and, sometimes the business world and public schools can not look like they go together, and I think it's what gives us a competitive advantage against others who might want our students, or why it's more attractive to move into Cincinnati versus one of the outerlying areas. And we have such a rich community of businesses, and clearly this list, I think, talks to the depth and breadth. I would only just make one small comment in that I think if you aggregate the largest employers in the region and look at healthcare specifically, and look at my day job touching healthcare, we see lots of data being one of the fastest growing fields, especially over the long term, that maybe having somebody from one of our healthcare institutions involved, because I think that is an area that here at CPS, maybe someday we'll have a school of the life sciences where, like the School of Performing Arts, where we're preparing people for every one of the many, many healthcare related jobs. But just thank you for all the hours of non-paid, but significantly beneficial to the babies of CPS.
The good news is Children's Hospital, John Scott was just our retiring chairman. He just left the board. We're just having a new person coming on, so we've had them on since the beginning.
Perfect.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Ms. Bates.
Right, and just one more, a couple of comments, and kind of to add on, I don't see anybody from the service industry up there. That's such a huge economy here in our area, and that would be a suggestion that since we have a culinary institute in our schools, and a comment from our prior speaker about the need to expand that would be a suggestion. Also, this may come up during, or I couldn't make the assignment, that we make the appointment of a board member to the Business Advisory Committee, and if you could provide us with a calendar of meetings so that person can attend regularly and report back to the board, and again, to make sure that legally we're in compliance with ORC with the makeup.
Ditto everything. And thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on with the agenda, we're now at board matters. We had 3 topics. As you know, we revised the agenda to add a topic, but as you all know, Mr. Morosky is not feeling well, so he decided to leave. And he is okay if we decide to defer it, but that's certainly the board's option if we want to continue it. But since it was his item, so I asked him. The fire and safety discussion. We revised the agenda to add that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
is that at all time sensitive?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, so we can actually add it to the next board agenda
Can I
as
say
needed.
something?
Yes?
It may not be time sensitive that we need to deal with it tonight, but I will like to bring some sense of urgency as council will be discussing it within the next week or 2 of their board council calendar.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to add it to the next board discussion, which is, I don't know the date off the top of my head, but thank you. Thank you. Okay, so first topic, board members' public communication practices. Mr. Davis?
Before we go, I don't know about
Communication?
that. Can we go back first to
We can go,
to
we'll
point
go
three?
to
Because I think
point,
that's to the third
the
subject
fire and
matter.
safety.
Because I think that's coming to council before we meet again.
It might be.
Okay.
I don't know, though. Does
Well,
anybody know?
certainly, I'm not sure, I don't know. But certainly, if people feel comfortable enough to have that discussion, we have that discussion today.
I mean, I feel comfortable enough
Okay,
putting it off, but I just don't know.
I don't know,
Okay.
yeah. So we, go ahead.
Okay, I go back to, I had a question in regards to board communication practices. And I was looking for guidance from the communications department of our administration as to how the board is to present themselves in public. I have very strong relationships in the media. People call me all the time. So for the past 2.5 months, I've been saying, I don't know if I can answer that. Let me call Lauren. And I'd rather have some understanding of, I read the bylaws, I understand. I don't know that it's always done the way the bylaws, how I interpret the bylaws, because I see several board members talking about things where the board president should be talking, in my opinion, the board president should be talking about things. And I just want some guidance from administration as to how administration expects board member behaviors as I get more comfortable being on the board. I was talking to Richard Childs today about a matter that was not education related, but I still didn't want to comment.
Okay, let's open that up for board members. I think let's start there, and maybe board members can share their understanding and interpretation of how we communicate. That has been a topic that I think even myself, as probably, as not new, but fairly new, had to learn. So, Mr. Messer, you want to start us off?
Yeah, and I'm going to speak as the maybe second newest around the table. But I think that those of us who are sitting around the table were elected by people in this community, and therefore we have kind of a role to serve them and a role to serve as board members of the district. I think I think it's maybe a little fuzzy, but at least the way I've approached it is, if somebody asks me my opinion, and I make sure that I answer if I think it's something that is not for some reason information that we shouldn't be sharing based on a variety of circumstances, but utilizing good judgment, I'm happy to answer as an individual or as a parent in the district. But I think where definitely steer clear is what is the board's position on this. And I think when it becomes to, or when it comes to a question about what is the board or what is the administration or those things, that's when I would avoid making those comments without consistent talking points. And I think several of our more senior members around the table have done a good job of, once we've gotten to a point, saying, all right, Lauren, could you send out some key talking points? And then sometimes we agree, and then the president will be our voice on this particular topic. But as a whole, I think just more broadly, using good judgment, I think the people who elected us probably have an expectation for us to give an opinion here or there, as long as we're not speaking on behalf of the board.
Ms. Bates?
thing that we really have to be careful of. And usually reporters will let us know when they're doing this, but when we have an important vote coming up, they'll say, I'm calling all the board members before the vote. Well, that's an open meetings violation.
Right.
So we really have to be careful about that, so that, and I don't, it hasn't happened recently. We've had some particularly aggressive reporters that did do that in the past, and we got caught up. This was years ago, but that's something to be cognizant of if they're calling all of us. Or sometimes if it's a policy matter, it'll be referred to myself as policy chair. You know, Ryan did the editorial on the budget because it was a finance affair. So it just depends on who the board appoints to speak on behalf on a board matter. But, you know, we just have to be careful about what the intent is, and if they're looking for a singular opinion, or, you know, getting a poll of the board prior to a vote.
Ms. Bolton?
Yeah, I think it's a perennial question. Not only as new members, but also, as it was referenced a little bit earlier, I think by Melanie, that you have a new makeup of the board. So the acceptability of certain things changes with the membership of the board. I can remember clearly almost 3 years where only the president really spoke on most matters. And you other folks were kind of in deep background or whatever, and that was sort of the way we rolled at that particular time. You have a different superintendent, that changes things, but some of the watchwords are, it's important as best you can to never share anything that hasn't already been shared in public. And oftentimes I can wax poetic for 3 or 4 paragraphs, just reminding myself and whoever's asking the question what we already did, that they didn't know. And sometimes it looks like news, but it already happened. So if it's already been determined, the polling of the board, like started to happen a little bit with the FC things, that's totally unacceptable. You do not tell people really where you are, or try to figure out who other people are, because that is a open meetings thing. In recent times, when nobody really calls me, frankly, anymore. It happens after a while. But most of the time I've been able to speak in public, it's because I've been referred by the Department of Engagement based upon whatever topic it was, like finance might go to the chair of finance or what have you. And I think I got some Stargle questions just because of some of the stuff that I said at the meeting. So those things happen. And the best cover, and it's what Mr. Morawski's been working on very carefully, and he's so proud. He said, well, I'm just speaking on my own behalf, and I don't speak for the board, because this is not a city council. This is a consensus body. So no one speaks for the board till the board tells them that they're speaking for the board, or a vote has happened. And then once that vote has happened, we can all speak on behalf of the board, and even if we disagree with what happened, we're in favor of it because the board has spoken. So it's normal to wonder, and I'm still wondering what's the best possibility.
Ms. Copeland Dansby?
Well, this is just a great topic. You know, things are evolving and have evolved over time, some good, some not so good. You know, this topic has had to be discussed in many different ways over time. Having served as the past 2-term president of this board, there were times where my colleagues to the left and, well, to the right of me would be really upset because they didn't know that I was saying something on behalf of the board as the president of the board. And it was almost a challenge to be that representative. There was a challenge often. And so I thought we had already gotten to the point where we decided that the president speaks on behalf of the board. Given our new strategic engagement folk, who I think are doing an amazing job, you know, when I worked with them in the last year, I found it to be very beneficial to have talking points that were generated that we all could share. Because what I find challenging when we're trying to do this very difficult work is that 7 people are telling 7 different stories and wanting to be in front of a camera or vying to do whatever. It's the work of the district and the children and the families that's important to me. So I think I would suggest, deferring to the president. It's tough when we have such amazing relationships with lots of different constituents and people and that kind of thing. So, but I'm just under the impression that, we shouldn't be out telling the story of, on behalf of the board when we're not the president of the board. It would make her job hard. It made my job very hard. And I wouldn't want, I thought we got over that hurdle. So I don't want to see us backslide there. But again, I do like the fact that our chairs speak up. The editorials are great. That's moving us in the right direction. But I feel very supportive of talking points and shared communication and that, and then allowing us to disagree or agree where we do or don't, but to tell the story in one particular way.
Mr. Davis.
One area that is a particular challenge, and if I rewind back to where I started, I'm asking for some direction from administration, as I will often do, and I'm almost at the point of thinking about asking for an assignment around a communication strategy for the board. One place of particular challenge is Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
I get tagged with Eve, and I love Bill Collins. Like, I hope he's listening. I hope he's watching, because he teaches me so much. But he tags me and Eve often. I guess Eve has a relationship with Bill I'm just on Facebook, and we haven't had any challenges, any problems, but there are sometimes he asks questions that I like to answer, and I don't know the answer to, and it's not Facebook savvy to wait till tomorrow. Ryan and I had a situation about, it was somebody else on that tag, Ryan, myself, and somebody else, about the metal detectors at Walnut Hills. So I called Lauren, like, yo, I got a Facebook question about metal detectors. I don't want to go outside of where we're at. We hadn't had a conversation in regard to the metal detectors at Walnut Hills. I shared with, I don't recall exactly who it was, but I shared that the students came to the student achievement, because I remember Member Bolton saying to me before, hey, you can use the stuff that's already been public. And I shared that, but I really feel it would have been much more strategic. And I want to be strategic working in this consensus body. 1, to support administration, and 2, to really have a firm handle on how we communicate the toughest of issues. And I think people, and social media has set this all on a whole nother level, because it's one thing to talk about the media, but when people that your constituents or your friends or people that you have high respect for tag you on Facebook, waiting for tomorrow. If I tag Ryan on something tonight and he waits for 2 days, that just doesn't feel right to me. So I really think if we really could think about a strategy for this body as to how we communicate, it would be better for the district.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. I'd like to comment on the discussion. I think because I too have learned a lot just coming into this seat, and some of it wasn't pleasant that I had to deal with in terms of better understanding my role. And I think the key to this is really, if it's information, somebody's already said this, if it's information that is already public and somebody asks you to speak to it, you have all right to speak to it. It is your opinion. We have to stay away. I mean, if it's sensitive, and then we strategize as a team to figure out how do we message what we want to say at an appropriate time. The other piece, too, is we have to be very careful not to respond through panic and through crisis mode. And what happens is, especially with some of the media outlets, I can remember when FCC hit, we got noticed and all of that, and there was a frenzy around how we came together, and the media was calling everybody at home and all that. And that too, even though it might be public that we got a letter or something like that, you still have to use discretion in terms of what information you want to share with them. And Ryan and I had earlier conversations about that. But we understood, at that time we were operating sort of in crisis mode. So I think, sometimes when we're in doubt, the best thing to do is just defer it to Lauren. That's what she's there for, to help us with that. And she has very strong connections to the media and all of those folks, and can coordinate that well. Also, I just want to say, some time ago, and we probably need to revisit this came up before, and I believe we made an assignment for Lauren and Ryan and our staff to come together to develop the exact strategies that you're referencing, so we might want to revisit that as well. So, Ms. Bolton.
The role of the administration, first of all, if something's in the process of negotiations, and I'm not just talking labor negotiations, but if the board has assigned to the administration to represent us or to conduct some sort of negotiations, or then we have nothing to say. It's to them. The administration can help us with our messaging so that it's unified.
Yes.
But beyond that, I think the administration would be surprised to think that they could tell us what we're going to be able to say. I think that's probably not within their purview, because we are elected officials and we all do have our networks and our responsibilities, and we can't sit here with, 7 or 6 people being silent about something, because then the board loses credibility if we lose credibility. Right. So I think that those are some things to be thinking about. The other part, and I've been pretty good about this over the years, if somebody in the press does reach out to me, I will tell the engagement folks, whether it was Janet Walsh or now Lauren, I will say so-and-so called about this. And before I return the call, I might get some, give me some stuff to say or not say, or is there, has there been something happening? Those are just rules that you learn kind of to save your own self, the embarrassment of embarrassing the board or stepping out. So those are some rules I think can work for us. But I think the whole board needs to have a profile, and the whole board needs to demonstrate the cooperation and collaboration with each other and with the administration. And very frankly, if the community thinks that somehow it's not being represented, it's basically the first people they'll go to is that you board members aren't representing us, because we're the ones charged with that responsibility. So there has to be some communication back and forth.
Mr.
I'm glad
Messer.
you brought the topic up.
Yeah, and the Facebook post, and I've gone for a long time without getting into any Facebook back and forths, and that one was one that on Friday, just given another point to somebody who was very myopic, in my opinion, how they were representing what they thought CPS was doing, but through that tag then got called. So first thing I did was, hey, Lauren, somebody from the Enquirer, I think she's a writer, asking about. So while I didn't speak to any of the specific things that the administration would be able to very clearly articulate our plans as a district, et cetera, I did speak to her ultimately with those talking points as a parent, as a board member, and the things that I think about and what I've heard from constituents, which I would say one of the biggest things I've heard from parents as a whole since taking office is, what are you doing to make sure our children are safe? And so, but the technicalities of what specifically we're doing and how many metal detectors we have and why we did that versus this, I left that all to the administration to answer those types of questions. But I think the power of having a board with lots of different networks and deep networks is that we'll reach more people to know they have an engaged board and a board that's working on their behalf. And I do think, though, as Vice President Copeland-Dansby stated, when we have board decisions and we're dealing with very tough issues, it's really good to have one mouthpiece. Because I was glad to not take any phone calls on FC Cincinnati, and I was glad, and I think our president did a fabulous job of representing our board, and it was kind of like, good. But I think it's very powerful to be able to network. And the one thing of being tagged in Facebook, one thing I have been able to do is, hey, thank you so much. I'm going to message you my phone number. Please give me a call. And we've connected parents thanks to the help of our engagement team, of the superintendent, in taking care of issues or helping a child or whatever. So I think that's all very good for the district.
Mr. Davis.
I just wanted to say thank you to every board member here, because to the public it might just be we're just talking, but you guys are really helping me personally, and I appreciate each of your suggestions.
Thank you. Okay, we ready to move on? I believe the next topic is Ms. Bolton's topic on the board footprint and district expansion.
Yes, and this shouldn't, I don't know that it takes a lot of time. I just would like us to put this out there for board consideration and moving forward too, as the superintendent and the administration aggressively and assertively really move us into this growth spurt and whatever that we're experiencing. I think it's important for us to figure out as a board what role the board plays in expanding the district. Meaning, is it a superintendent decision as to what kind of school we're going to have if we have a new school? Is it the senior staff, or is it the administration, or is it the neighborhood? The folks in Clifton and neighboring neighborhoods have been working for 18 months on what kind of program they want at CANS, or whatever the school's going to be called. They've periodically, at our request, reported to the Student Achievement Committee, which I value. So if Clifton's going to be, that involved with helping to determine what the program's going to be at CANS, then what about the West Side people? What role are they going to play? And I know we've committed to engagement, but I also know, myself included, I've said to people, well, it might be, something totally new, or it might be something that's a traditional whatever, or it's this, Walnut on the West, or who knows what it is. My point is, I don't think we've all figured out, is that a board level decision when you expand the portfolio, which is what we will be doing, and is it what role will the community play, and how do we, if we're coming in at the tail end, then how do we say no to the community? So I think there needs, from the administration and the board and the community, I think we need to figure out how we're all, this is my opinion, how we're all going to collaborate in that effort. In choosing and figuring it out. I don't know what kind of school we should have anywhere, but we know we're going to be adding, and we know we need to be reevaluating our programs at other schools as well. And what helps or what complements the portfolio, what expands it, what keeps us growing. And I think maybe we should be able to devote some sort of time to talking about what that may mean and how we don't want to tell the community something's already been decided, because it hasn't. But I think that the portfolio itself and the engagement in the community, I think we need to have a better understanding as to how that's going to proceed.
Ms. Copeland-Dansby.
I don't know. In my time, I have not known this board to allow the administration to get too far ahead with those kinds of decisions. I think that, we have to remember that we're giving direction to the administration for the work that needs to be done. However, it's the superintendent's job to have some vision for the district, of course. And so I don't really recall where some plans or decisions had been made concretely where we weren't in conversation already, especially about expansion and portfolio and that kind of thing. And then I'm really glad to say this is the exact reason you're concerned why I made the suggestion to have the strategic planning step, whatever it's called today, committee. Because, you know, for me, there has to be direct involvement from the community. There has to be leadership from the board, but we have to also give credence and recognition to our very talented superintendent and her team who have the vision for where the, you know, academic and curriculum and I wish I could ramble those words that I just learned tonight. Yeah, those are the things that our children need and that are making the difference. This board didn't go to the enrolled, enlisted, employed. We've supported it because that's the vision of the administration, and that's what you know, is currently working. So, you know, I'm hopeful that the STEP committee will flush out some community ideas about what the community wants, because I do know over time we've gotten ahead of the community without including their voice as much as I would like to see happen. And I'm thankful that we have such a robust group of folk at that table. We've had one meeting with the committee, and so I'm hopeful that that will help move along some of our initiatives in that. As far as expansion goes, I'm so thrilled that we're expanding, and this is going to be a continual conversation. So thanks for bringing this up.
Ms. Bates, followed by Mr. Messer.
I'm going to beat this drum again. It is the responsibility under Ohio Revised Code for a Board of Education to prescribe curriculum. Now, that's not to say we're to tell Ms. Mitchell what program to put into what school, but we certainly need to be knowledgeable about the array of curriculum, either vote or give some kind of approval by consensus on the curriculum and support the administration's vision in that way. And that's not been a part of the practice. I know Ms. Mitchell is incorporating that more, but again, unless we're aware of what's going in what school and what it entails, how can we engage the public as their community representatives? And actually, how can we represent the community doing the job that the Ohio Revised Code says we should do, and that's to prescribe curriculum. So we have more of a responsibility than I believe we've been practicing, and I've been saying that for a long time.
Mr. Messer.
Yeah, I do concur that I think the strategic planning team will help with the part of assessing our district and determining where we may have needs today and where we may have needs in 5 years and beyond. So I'll get pretty excited looking at the numbers and looking at current enrollment and where we see population growth to kind of plan those things out. I'm also perfectly happy to acknowledge my station in life that I would not be the one you would want to determine what we do when those schools get planned. You know, but I do think that some of the things as we're making some of those decisions and how we use, and let's look at Mercy as one opportunity there as an example, I do view that as helping us to create space that may help us solve one problem, at least I see in the district, and that's capacity for a very packed Walnut Hills. So whatever that is, I hope that that solves, and you know, some of my thoughts on that is, you know, what would get parents who live closer to this building versus this building, get them to choose this new option? And it doesn't mean it has to be a Walnut West. What is it that they want? And if they are served some ideas and some suggestions, and we can create a solution that makes people say, you know what, I would pick that school based on that. That's the type of things that I think I would be looking for. But I do think the strategic planning committee is going to help us look holistically at some of our needs. As I understand, our property is extremely limited these days. So we are going to have some of those conversations as we look at the data that comes in and where we see those needs in the next 5 to 10 years.
Thank you. Okay. So, Ms. Bolton, do you see any sort of next step level discussion or action following this conversation?
I think the next step is, engaging the community in the specific and precise places where we know we're going to be expanding. And I think the administration sharing some alternatives and ideas with us, because they are the experts as to what is out there from an educational standpoint, and then having some dialogue among the board members and engaging the community with ideas. And I do know we have gone at least 3 times that I can think of where the board has had to look at an array of buildings. Which buildings do we keep? Which buildings do we get rid of? We've been part of that. Those are board level sorts of decisions, and I know the administration doesn't want to take that upon themselves. But I think more dialogue between the administration and the board, and how the engagement happens in the neighborhood, and all of us better understanding the roles that we can play in it.
Yeah,
I think would be useful. And I appreciate the first this discussion occurring.
Mr. Messer.
Yeah, and just a kind of a follow-up to that, I know that some of us have lived on the west side. Westwood was my first neighborhood, still have some good friends over there. I do get the questions on, hey, what's going on? What do you know? What's the inside scoop? So it might be good to at least kind of give a timeline, kind of on now to opening, what can the community expect, so that we can say, oh, there was a timeline and you can refer to X, Y, Z. I mean, that might be a good role as well for the board to be able to share that type of information, that there is an official process. But I think just looking at the cans example, I don't think you can look at a better case study for how you engage community people with the administration and an entire demographic of the population that didn't have that neighborhood school, seeing them to come together. I think it's a really great model.
Yes, Superintendent Mitchell.
I just want to say, from the administration standpoint, we are so open to the thoughts of the board as well as community. When you look at our initiatives, of course, we do have some vision around them, but when we play them out, they are really the things that the board has asked for. Yes. So when we started My Tomorrow, a board member pushed really hard and says, this has to be about employment at the end of the day. And so employee enlist and enrolled, we really hit that home. When a board member mentioned the fact that we need more equity as it relates to our students who fall just below the gifted range, then we came to the board with Spencer. When technology has come up, so anytime the board, we really are listening and taking notes and bringing it back. It may not necessarily be in the exact form that you thought when it was presented to us, but we're more than open and willing to take, obviously, direction from the board. So that's hopefully there's never been a question around our willingness to listen to the community and the board as well.
Yes. So just in final comment, then we can move on. I guess from where I sit, I've always seen it as a collaborative relationship that, vision drives how you operate. And I think what will happen in the new STEP process is that we'll revisit this concern somewhere, because from what I understand, the attempt here is to try to make everything we do come together in a more cohesive and better understood way of how we do business. And we're not going to recreate the wheel. And I think that's why it is so important for our administration to be at that table, because they are the experts in terms of the actions that, the operational pieces of it. So I'm pretty sure it will come up again. Just in closing, I want to say that the STEP process, I can remember when we were having this discussion in ad hoc committee, and I was totally against it in terms of the concept, the way it was. And so I am very much appreciative of the work that this committee has done, and that I think this conversation will certainly be a good fit in terms of when you all start really digging into the nuts and bolts of this. So I look forward to what the next level of conversation will be about this. Okay. So I wanted to, Ms. Worley has so kindly did some work and actually reached Mr. Greg Landsman. this is about the fire and safety concern. The resolution on the Fire Academy doesn't have to be approved until September. However, the ballot language has to be approved next week. Now, that's, we don't have a meeting. Our next meeting is the 27th. However, she did update us to say that the August 27th meeting is within the timeline to get the board's input on the resolution and get it on the ballot, so there's no urgency. So we just have to make sure that we have a conversation about this on the 27th. Ms. Bolton.
Point of clarification, this is not just for city council to decide. They have to put something before the voting population?
Yes, Ms. Copeland Dansby.
It's an amendment to the city charter.
Dear Lord.
I said the same thing. It's an amendment to the city charter.
Them determining an opportunity for an issue of ours to be on the ballot when we are already facing how many renewals in the next 3 years.
Right.
And have a chance for this to go down or even to be made, we're going to start doing our programming by virtue of the city council putting something on the ballot. I don't understand this at all.
Yeah, this to me is a good example, because I keep asking the question, what is the purpose of the ACES meeting? Because we come up against these timelines where they just throw stuff on us and we're expected to just hop and make certain decisions, and we don't operate like that. So that's my thing.
And Madam Chair, it's my understanding too that it didn't even go through the committee that actually deals with education, that this is from 2 specific members that are on that committee, but it didn't get the other members of the committee didn't even know about it. And so it's...
and how did this information get to us about the Fire and Safety Academy? How was that communicated?
I don't know that it...
Trying to remember, I'm sorry.
I don't know that it has been.
No,
yeah,
not formally.
Not formally, no.
Nope.
Okay, so that's an issue. Yes, ma'am.
I think that the conversation should quickly turn into how is this a benefit for our students or not? I mean, because the issue is talking about giving particular points to particular students for particular modes of learning. And then there's some challenges as it relates to how folks already earn points, and does that supersede even veterans and some other things, and yeah.
I think you're right, and there's a lot of work, and we have to give some thought to it. I don't see us being able to make a decision by the 27th. Ms.
Well,
Bolton.
my concern too is what is it communicating about our students and our programming? It makes it appear, I mean, some of these points assignments are more than veterans get, it's my understanding. Mm-hmm. So you're creating a message that our kids need all this extra help to get a job, and then why is it only for the uniform folks for the city? Why wouldn't we be hiring, or, if there's going to be points, it should be points because they live in the city and they went to CPS schools. But then what are you telling the parochial folks, and you're telling the other private, I mean, I just think this has, I think this is outrageous.
Mr. Davis.
From my understanding, this is an opportunity for our students, and members of council really were more interested in knowing if it was a problem for the superintendent in regards to having the service academies at Western Hills. I think since we have the new timeline and we have time to speak about it before it goes to council in September, I think we should just talk about it and get more information at that time.
We can do that, yes. I don't know who was first, Ms. Copeland Dansby.
No,
Go ahead.
I would like to suggest that we make an assignment related to this when we get to assignments.
Okay.
For that specific reason.
Makes sense.
But collectively.
Yes. Mr. Messer.
I was just going to say, if they're going to help us with some education things, I'd really like to get over the trash collection and some building inspector issues. Maybe we could propose some things. No, I'm just kidding. Just see if you're listening. No, I think that the intention sounds really good and sounds really exciting. I think it's the process and what it could mean kind of more holistically. So that was going to be my question was, could we get somebody on the 27th to give us kind of a uniform download? Because I think some people may know more than others. And I think I have a voicemail that I should have returned that probably would have given me some more information. But I think I have no idea really what the proposal is at this point.
Yes, we'll make an assignment.
One quick follow-up. It's my understanding that, as having been involved a little bit at West High, indirectly through, I think, Grad Cincinnati, that there is an attempt, and I think this came through in the previous election too, that there is an effort, properly so, to have West High perhaps begin to develop a program. I know the EMT program, that dates all the way back to Mr. Manera. I know that, I think we've talked about the African-American firefighters being extremely supportive of doing this.
This is where that program started.
Yeah, exactly. It's where it started. That's one thing. But, and I don't think you're going to find anybody on the board that's going to say we don't want to have those kinds of programs at West High. That's what we get to decide. This issue that something's going to be on the ballot about the civil service points or changing the charter for our kids, I think that is a whole nother ballgame. And why we would be doing it or asking the people to vote on it before we've even created the academy or we even have any kind of test run of the success of it or can populate it. I applaud the leadership on getting it done and getting it initiated, but this ballot issue that's a minefield.
So let's consider when we get to assignments how we want to approach this. So if we could move on, Mr. Davis, would you please present the following resolution for board consideration?
Which one?
Number one.
Number one, the resolution
The first one.
to request the waiver.
Oh, it's not that. It's the application, right?
Right, you could just read that.
Here you go. This is what you want to think.
Okay, got you. A resolution to request a waiver for alcohol use at the School for the Creative and Performing Arts by LAD, living arrangements for the developmentally disabled. I present it as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, questions, comments? Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton? Mrs. Copeland Dansby?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Messer?
Yes.
President Jones?
Aye. Motion carries. Resolution accepted. Mr. Messer, would you please present the following resolution for board consideration?
Madam President, I present a resolution reappointing Christine Fisher and Laura Sanriget as Cincinnati Public Schools Preschool Expansion Organization Board Representatives. I present the motion.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Discussion?
Yes.
I think that the resolution should include, and maybe it doesn't, I didn't read it carefully enough. I think it should include the commencement time, the date that this starts, and the date that the 3 years are over. Which I think is September 1st, 2018 through to 2021, perhaps, because these are the 3-year terms. And I would ask the motion maker and the seconder if we could have a friendly amendment to suggest that line.
Okay, you've made a motion to amend the, with the comments on the timeline of the term.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Just for point of clarification, we're approving the revised as suggested, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Messer?
Aye.
President Jones?
Aye. Ms. Copeland Dansby, would you please present the following resolution?
I have a resolution appointing an official delegate to the Ohio School Boards Association 2018 Capitol Conference, and I present it as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
We have to name that happy-go-lucky person.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, we need to name the person before we approve it.
Right. No, that's right.
I had the privilege to do that last year. The requirement is attending the Capitol Conference, and serving as a delegate means at least 2 meetings, the one meeting for the briefing of and it's during that Capitol Conference, a briefing of what's going to be before the General Assembly, so to speak, and then attending that General Assembly and voting on behalf of Cincinnati Public, aye or nay. So it's basically 2 meetings during and there are hundreds of people in the General Assembly part of it, and usually a couple of hundred people at the briefing.
Okay. Mrs. Copeland-Dansby.
Do we know the dates of the meetings?
It's
They're
Veteran
November-
Day weekend.
The conference is November 11th through
Yeah.
13th?
To the 13th.
Yes. I plan on attending. I would be happy to serve if it's the
Great,
board's will.
go for it.
I nominate
Oh, my God. Okay.
Madam President.
Okay, since I'm doing this resolution, I'm going to fill in Board President Carolyn Jones in the
Excellent.
last
Wonderful.
paragraph. The board appoints president as official delegate to the Capitol Conference.
Perfect.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Let's
Any
go.
discussion? Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Let me think about that. Aye.
Mr. Messer? President Jones?
Aye. Okay, Mr. Messer, would you please present the following resolution?
Madam President, I present a resolution amending Board Policy 1411, whistleblower protection. I present the resolution as written.
Second?
Aye.
Discussion. Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Messer?
Aye.
President Jones?
Aye. Ms. Bolton, would you please present the following resolution?
Yes, I have a resolution amending Board Policy 1541 regarding termination and resignation. I submit as written and hope for approval.
Is there a second?
Second?
Discussion. Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Messer?
Aye.
President Jones?
Aye. Mr. Davis, would you please present the resolution?
Resolution amending Board Policy 6105, authorization to use facsimile signature. I present the resolution as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Messer?
Aye.
President Jones?
Aye. Mrs. Bates, would you please present the next 2 resolutions?
Yes, I have a resolution amending Board Policy 7434, use of tobacco. I present this resolution as printed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Mrs. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Messer?
Aye.
President Jones?
Aye.
Yes, and I have a resolution rescinding Board Policy 3215, use of tobacco by professional employees. I move this resolution as printed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Messer?
Aye.
President Jones?
Aye. Thank you. Superintendent Mitchell, do you have a report?
I do, but I am going to make a slight amendment. I do have a video, but I'm going to hold the video until the next meeting, if that's okay.
That'd be great.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that, especially for the viewing audience, that school begins on this coming Wednesday, the 15th. So there's plenty of opportunities to still enroll within Cincinnati Public Schools. We're very excited to welcome our students back and our staff back today. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the revised recommendations of the superintendent?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Messer?
Aye.
President Jones?
Aye. Do I have a motion to approve the report of the treasurer?
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion.
I have a question.
Yes. Ms. Bolton.
I just have a real quick question. On item number 1, I guess, regarding the graduations taking place at Fifth Third Arena. And my question is, have we, our favorite topic, have we addressed the parking issues at Fifth Third Arena?
I'm going to ask Mr. Miles to come down to specifically talk about parking. We decided to go with Fifth Third Arena at the University of Cincinnati. They offered service that is complementary, or it is comparable to Xavier, if not improved.
I think it exceeds. So we have a standard graduation. Those of you who've been to several different graduations, you would go to one graduation and they would have the lights, and then you would go to another graduation and they would be using the bar across. At Fifth Third Arena, one, it is cost effective for us. Two, we will have a standard of what our graduations are. We are still working with them. We will have parking there at UC. What we're also doing is looking to have a shuttle to make sure that we can get people from the parking lot up to if there is handicapped spots. But we are still working on those pieces as we speak.
Does this include Wallace Hills High School graduation?
Yes.
Thank God. What? Parking was a significant issue and challenge when we were at Crossroads this past year, and I know that was an exception.
Well, and one of the reasons we want to go with Fifth Third, that we can choose the dates that we want. We were kind of put in a corner with some of the things that were happening at Centos with all the other graduations outside of our school district, that we were locked in. And in order to get the AP exams at Walnut Hills, we had to choose that date, and that was the only place.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the treasurer's report. Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Messer?
Aye.
President Jones?
Aye. Okay, so moving on to inquiries and updates. I'm going to ask folks for inquiries and updates, but I think what we can do is start with Ms. Worley. Can you come up for us? Lauren, Ms. Worley wants to give us an update on kind of where things are in terms of the various back-to-school activities that are going on and how we might participate in that.
Wednesday's the big day. I'm really excited. So I have a sheet I can circulate to all of you, but today we finalized the schedule for the superintendent where she will be. I'm excited that we'll have all 4 TV stations doing live shots from 4 different schools starting at 5:30 in the morning. I'm sure you're all willing to be, I'm teasing. I won't be there at 5:30 myself, but we'll have comm staff there in the morning. So it'd be really great if members are able to go to at least one of those schools where we'll have live shots, because we'll be able to get back to the conversation on communications. It'd be great to have different voices there on those stations. The superintendent's hopefully going to be at Evanston Academy, Withrow, Mount Airy, and another school on Wednesday that I'm blanking on. And then we'll visit the rest of the Vision 2020 3.0 schools on Thursday. So I can circulate that list also via email, and wherever you decide to go, what's convenient for you is great. We will be at all 63 schools on Wednesday with various administration officials covering them. Those events just will be closed press, so you're more than welcome to go to those too if there's a school that you have a special affinity for, but it'd be great to have you guys go to the schools where we're driving press.
Sign me up for Mount Airy.
Mount Airy.
So you want to know where we're going?
Yeah, that would be helpful for us.
Shoot you an email or something?
I'll shoot you the list tonight, and then yes, just shoot me an email. What's convenient for you?
I'm going to be at Rockdale at 7 a.m.
Perfect, that'd be great.
You know that.
Yes,
sure.
I remembered you said
like the
Rockdale.
last 15 years.
Yeah, and that also allows us to make sure not that you haven't already communicated with the principal, but they know, and then the CPS staff who's there knows you're coming too.
Ms. Copeland Dansby.
Lauren, thank you. There's just such an amazing excitement. You know, this is by far, I think, it's all my favorite, but graduation is exciting, but the start of the school year is quite amazing. Mm-hmm. And there's just a sense of excitement in the community and every place that I've been lately. A good thing on Facebook. So thank you. When you send the list, will the times at the different locations be there and perhaps a meeting space? And then the other challenge is, because I've done this every year with the superintendent, and I meant to tell you I was gonna come, so I'll tell you. Where do we park and that kind of thing,
Once I know what school you'll be at, I can work with
Okay, then
the
you'll tell
esteemed
us.
staff / Jerry Roberts at each of the school sites to make sure there's a designated place for you to park, or you can park in front of the building, but we'll make sure you don't get towed.
Okay.
Important.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Bates? I'm sorry, Ms.
That's the first time in a couple of times, so that's good.
I was getting better, okay.
I just have a question. It'd be good if there was a master list as to where everybody is going, so we don't have 3 people show up at one, and then other schools get,
Yeah, that's our intention, because it's really, really great if we can spread the love.
Well, should we send that to you, or should
I
we
have
send it to
I actually have a
Phyllis?
printed list here that I can circulate now in the last few minutes you're here, and then I can circulate it by email too if you need time to check your calendar.
Where I am.
Right. Mr. Davis?
Do you get information from the schools to you, like Rothenberg is having a big thing and Ethel M. Taylor's having a big thing and Woodward's having a big thing? Do they tell you?
They're supposed to, yeah. So the way that we worked it, and I had a great meeting with the principals on the first as part of our orientation, as well as the resource coordinators. We actually have a form that we ask them to send, not to be bureaucratic, but it's the who, what, when, where. You'd be surprised in people's excitement about describing an event, how often they forget the date. So that's why we ask for the form. Rothenberg's on our radar, Rockdale's on our radar, and we'll actually be doing live shots from Ethel Taylor on Wednesday morning. And all that information's super helpful to us. Unfortunately, we can't get stations to all 63 schools. We'd love to do it. We've also tried to look at schools where we know hasn't been covered in the last couple of months to make sure that we're trying to get some coverage at those schools.
Mr. Messer?
Yeah, I just want to underscore something that our vice president just stated. And yes, our superintendent is at rock star status in Cincinnati in the eyes of me and just about everybody I know. But even Whitney Houston needed Clive Davis. And so I just want to say thank you for getting that album out and producing the event the other day. And in the midst of all these other things going on, then, by the way, here's your talking points on this, and here's your talking points on this. I can't even imagine what your day looks like, and your work is appreciated.
Thank you very much. And I must accept that on behalf of my team, because it's a very, very small team who works very hard every day, and I really appreciate that, and it's much appreciated. So your notes, thank you. Meant a lot to our team.
Yes.
I'm writing that down, by the way. That was a good one. I like that line.
Could we have the 4 schools again real quickly that do you already have?
My memory's going to fail me, so I'm going to look at my list. It's Schroeder, Ethel Taylor,
Schroeder?
Evanston, and we're not doing live shots at Withrow. I'll bring my list over.
Which are the early schools?
Lauren, just give it to us how you were going to give it to us to stop letting us confuse you.
Yeah.
She'll have it out before you get home.
I know, right?
Okay.
And Taft.
Oh, Taft.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so, okay. We're gonna continue on. People can look at the sheet and sign up accordingly. So are there any other inquiries and updates? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Morosky is not here, but we did leave at your space and place at the table 2 references, both of them deal with our trip as required by protocol. When we take a trip that's report expense, we're supposed to come back and report. There is an Ed Week article about UDL, Universal Design Learning. We're very excited about that. Our trip to Columbus, Indiana. The entire school district of Bartholomew Consolidated out of Columbus, Indiana is a UDL district, and there's a list of the people with whom we met, as well as that Ed article about what UDL is. And the same person that helped us line up the Belcan connection, Mr. Wanamaker, is the same person that lined us up with a man by the name of Steve Nordwalk, who last year I think met with the superintendent and Assistant Superintendent Bunty. but the reference here is that UDL is a very exciting thing, from space to curriculum to manners of teaching, and more particularly, it's a great way to start to refresh old buildings as well as widen the margins as to accepting kids where they are and where they can get. So we'll be saying more as we can, but we were very excited about our trip.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Messer.
Yeah, I think it's an inquiry, still learning on where some of these things fit, but in my trip to Saylor Park, doing the gripping and grinning part of the job, and I had initially a couple of parents, I'm trying to pull things out of, and they're like, well, I don't know, well, what kind of things did we talk to you about? Well, wait a minute, one thing, while you're here, my daughter's gonna be in a class, and they told us that there's 38 kids, and that they probably would need more help, but they wouldn't find out till October when they were gonna make that decision. That's what they were told. So I checked with a couple of the teachers to ask that question, and they tried to explain it, and I had no clue, but I promised those parents I would ask the question, because it didn't seem logical that we'd have 38 kids with one teacher for the first 2 months of the school year, et cetera. So just thought I would inquire about that.
Response now, or?
I can, but we can also provide a written response. So we actually staff based upon a projection. And we quite honestly do wait until the actually little bodies appear in our seats. We do try to make sure that we can reduce any overcrowdedness and adhere to the compliance around the CFT contract. I believe what the person is talking about is called Teacher Allocation Committee, and that committee meets in September to identify the staffing that's appropriate for the kids who have actually shown up. And so we will make sure that our kids have the staff members in front of them and try to reduce the classroom sizes as quickly as possible. At the end of September is when staffing changes are made, sometimes from one school to the other. So a school may lose a teacher because of their actual enrollment, and another school may gain. We can provide something to you, a written memo as well.
So just for my own learning, I mean, is this something that's widespread? I mean, as a parent, I think that would be kind of I would not take that very well if I knew my child was going to be in a class of 38 for 2 months. Is this something is there like a report generated that it spits out? And I have no idea what you said about the CFT contract, so.
Sure. So we actually collect attendance and enrollment the first couple of weeks every single day. Well, we do it, but we always look at it every single day here at Central Office, so we can really see where there are opportunities where we need to add additional staff or reduce staff. So again, we will not let a school sit with 38, 40 kids in a classroom without providing the assistance that's needed.
Okay, other inquiries and or updates? Okay, assignments. Ms. Copeland Dansby, followed by Ms. Bates.
I have a few. We just talked about the fire safety program, or not really understanding what we're talking about. I'm going to make an assignment to bring information before the board related to this proposed or alleged proposed charter amendment. And so for me, I'd like to have the information sooner rather than later so that when we meet, we can utilize our time best. Number two, I have questions about the safety plan for the district. And we may have talked about this not too long ago, but I would like to ask maybe on, if not the next regular business meeting on a Wednesday, that we can have a presentation related to just the global safety plan for the district, whatever that means to you, administration. I think we're all concerned about just ensuring that our students are safe on their campuses. And I'm sure there's something global that we can maybe have presented to us. Number three, I think Mr. Messer mentioned, and I was already thinking along these lines, sort of a timeline related to the work that will happen at the Mercy site on the west side of town. Some communication or some note that can be said to the community, because there's a lot of conversation, and I'd like to see us manage that. And there may already be something, but and I'm talking like 1, 2, 3 bullet, like nothing amazing in that, but just so that we, again, have talking points and that there's something maybe that lives on the website, or that there's a lot of excitement about it, and I just don't want the message to get ahead of us.
Ms. Worley?
Oh, okay.
Yes, we do. She's going to speak to that.
On September 6th at 1 p.m., actually at the Westwood campus.
Thank you. Thank you.
Formerly known as Mercy High School, we'll be doing a community event. And leading up to that, though, we'll be getting out to you. We're nailing down dates for community engagement sessions that will not only include the Westwood community, and we're trying to co-create those with the Westwood Civic Association and the 5 other groups that make up that community, but even more broadly, the high school community in the greater Cincinnati community, what a high school can look like. So we'll be engaging 5th and 6th graders as well as high school students to hear what they have to say. We know that some of those specific concerns are going to be for the community: transportation, parking, sports coming in and out, lights, that type of thing. So we're going to try to have meetings around that we propose to you, in addition to kind of more conceptual, what does a high school look like?
Thank you. I figured there was something.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Or go ahead.
No, I'm done with that.
Oh,
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure, because I just have one more thing.
Okay.
But I recall a press conference about both cans and.
Correct. We've scheduled a press conference for this body on August 27th, prior to your board meeting that day, to discuss big picture CPS expansion, including CANS and Mercy. The event on the 6th is a little bit more directed to the Westwood community specifically.
I also suggest the alumni of Mercy getting their own opportunity to present, because they've even invited us to, somehow participate in what they're doing.
Absolutely. That's among our list. Mm-hmm.
I think that would be useful, and when the bus comes and the lights and all that stuff, that's down the road a bit. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Definitely.
Ms. Copeland Dansby didn't get to finish.
Yes, there was just one other assignment. Traditionally, and it's not for you, Lauren, thank you. Traditionally, the board has received really nice from Bill Mooring, a parking plaque or card that we can set on our dashboard when we're running in and out of school. I've used mine so much, it's dilapidated. If we could, I need a new one. I don't know if anybody else does. And then maybe we can laminate it, because I think that's the problem. It wasn't laminated. And you use them for 4 or 5 years, and it's like, I need a new parking.
That would be good.
Thank you so
lamination.
much. Yes.
Mr. Davis? I got you.
No, my question was for Ms. Worley. She took care of me. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Bates?
Yes, I wanted to make assignments regarding the Business Advisory Council. Number 1, to legal counsel, to ensure that the makeup and the charter is in line with ORC and the board's responsibility. I don't know if we need a new bylaw to include it, or policy, or whatever. So if we can ensure that we are in compliance with that. Also, for the board to determine a process for appointing somebody to that committee. It's probably just somebody volunteering, but I think first we need the schedule. So we'll ask Ms. Davis to obtain the schedule to see which board member may be able to represent the board on that committee.
Ms. Copeland Dansby?
I'd like to support Ms. Bates on the appointment of a board member to that particular committee, and I'd be happy to serve.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
We made a commitment in student achievement some time ago to a group of Walnut Hill students to create a safety schoology page. I don't even know what that is, but I don't know if this is an assignment or an inquiry, but I wanted to know where that safety schoology page was. Is that up? School starts Wednesday. We made a commitment to a group of Walnut Hill students to have a safety schoology page. Is Scott still here?
I'll just speak for Sarah a little bit. We did go out and visit Walnut Hills and meet with those students. and heard more about what they wanted. We came back and said, let's work on this, and I sent a message out to Lucy, the spokesman for the students, and she just now got back to me. And so we're working on it. We're going as fast as we can as working with them on it.
Thank you, Scott.
So it's back in our hands now to know.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Okay, any other assignments? Having, yeah. Ms. Bolton?
I would just like to, I think it's a repeat of what I said earlier, for the district leadership to check regarding all the arrangements that have been made regarding SCPA and the film festival. Not, so, because I'm pretty sure it's been done at the site level, but it didn't seem like we at the district necessarily knew all the things that were going to be happening.
Okay. Any other assignments? Having no other business before us, this meeting is adjourned.
My jacket.
What?
Everybody get this?
Yes, sir, I took a picture.
On the business advisory
I'm
committee?
going to,
I mean, I'll do it.
I think what I heard is that she was, Erica wanted you to do the process. Is that what it was?
Hey,
I'm not sure.
somebody
but she
joked
said
about
she'd
10
be
o'clock.
interested in the committee, so I wasn't sure.
So we have to,
I think
We're
it's-
rolling right up to it.
process.
Yeah.
First,
And she
yeah.
wants to volunteer.
I never
Yeah.
I didn't have a car.
Okay.
I saw
Right, I know, because it's a vote.